Welcome back to Think Twice MTG. I'm Drew.
And I'm Alan.
And today, Alan has something special planned for us. Alan?
It is where I tell you about my entire life story from birth.
Oh, my God.
No, that's not it. We were texting back and forth about, okay, what's going to be the premise of this episode? As long as my numbering from one to the next has been fine. Because every time we go to record, I pull up the OBS overlay, and last time it said 12, so I think we're on 13. We're like, okay, here's the idea. So for episode 13, the premise is each of us, in turn, has been given control of Modern. Because we'll take a turn where it's only Drew is controlled. So it's not the two of us, it is Drew has control, and the new reality, Alan has control. So the premise is you get to take over complete sole control of Modern. What do you do on November 10th? Which is, for those who aren't aware, the date of the next BNR update.
Yeah.
So, Drew.
Yeah.
If you had to categorize your changes that you would make on November 10th, would you categorize them as safe, spicy, or unhinged?
Well, all the things that I want for Modern or Magic in general, which I think that some of these things bleed over to the game as a whole.
Yeah.
I would classify as being completely logical.
Safe, spicy.
Safe.
Okay, so you're
safe.
so you're safe. So I would categorize, I think, the way many people direct my list as unhinged.
Interesting.
So let's start with the safe list.
Sure. So since we're doing this on November 10th, and that's the ban list.
Yep.
I'm going to start with my unbanned and bans.
Yep. Makes sense.
Okay, so on November 10th, if I'm in charge of Modern, the following cards are unbanned.
Okay, unbans first. Here we go.
Birthing Pod.
Yep.
Deathrite Shaman.
Okay.
Let's see, where was the other one? There's Gigantha the Wellspring.
Oh, okay.
We can talk about these if you want to.
Yeah, for sure.
Oko... No, just kidding.
No, God.
Ponder.
Yep, okay. That's 4 so far.
Umezawa's Jite.
Yep, okay.
I would ban Mox Opal.
Okay.
That card is degenerate trash.
All right.
And
Degenerate trash label.
If you want to play with Mana Rocks, go play Legacy.
Yep. Or even Vintage.
Yes.
Can you play with the original Moxen in Legacy?
I believe it.
I don't think so.
You can play with Mox Diamond in Legacy. I know that. Isn't that one of the 5? Isn't that the white one?
No, isn't Diamond the one where you have to discard your hand or whatever?
I will look it up.
Yeah. Because we don't see people just playing Mox Sapphire.
Right.
So I would assume that people would if you could.
I would imagine. Yeah.
So I think all of the original 5, just 0, put this into play, taps for a color.
If Mox Diamond would enter the battlefield, you may discard a land card instead. If you do,
Okay.
Mox Diamond, put Mox Diamond onto the battlefield. If you don't, put it into its owner's graveyard. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool.
Okay, yeah. So it's one of the ones that does have some sort of cost.
Right, not just 0.
Yeah, not just here it is. It does the thing.
Turn
okay.
1, 4 mana.
We know things.
Yeah.
Okay. So talk about why you picked at least Gigantha. That is the most recently banned card that you're unbanning. I think all of the other ones have been banned for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I think cards like Jite and Pod are going to be in the camp of Splinter Twin, where it's just it's released, it does nothing.
No one plays it.
So, it might as well not be on the ban list because it doesn't do any harm being unbanned, so keep it unbanned because it makes it simpler. I think the more streamlined you can have the list, the better. So, sure. So those ones, fine. I think Ponder is probably pretty self-explanatory. I've heard one argument that seems to be the one that people go to for Ponder, and it's nothing to do with we don't need another good cantrip or anything, and it's this. It's people say, if Ponder's unbanned, it will make tournaments take longer because people will take too long to resolve it.
Oh, interesting. I'm glad that you talked about that because that's not a good enough reason.
Yes. My argument in response is always, people who are slow will be slow no matter what they play.
Right.
Because we have at least one person that regularly attends at our local scene that is like, oh, it's turn 1. Which land do I play? I don't even have a 1-mana play to make. Which land do I play?
Right.
This one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go. And then it's like fetch.
That's a fetch. You
And
can get any color you want.
And it's like then when they make the fetch decision, it's like they're looking at their deck for the first time. And they're like, oh, okay, could get that. And I'm like, you don't already know what you're getting? Like, what is this? So yeah, I agree. I think that is a silly argument because slow players are going to be slow no matter what. So let's not say, oh no, we can't have this card because people are going to be too slow. There's rules that dictate if you're being too slow. You just call a judge if they're being too slow. Hey,
Isn't Ponder look at the top 3, put them back in any order,
and then you can choose to shuffle and then draw a card whether you shuffle or not.
So like I just think that
It's not that much more complicated of a decision than preordained, which is look at 2.
one at a time.
You can reorder them as you want or put them on the bottom, which is essentially, if you put them both on the bottom, you're essentially saying shuffle with ponder, and so it's just one more card.
Yeah, and I think that there's some interesting gameplay ideas. Like in Legacy, you can quote unquote hide a card on the top of your deck.
Yeah, you can put it 2 down with the ponder or whatever, so that like you draw it next turn, so you can't be thought seized or whatever. So definitely some interesting play there.
So I think that would be good.
Yeah.
So let me talk about Gigantha.
Yeah, that's one that's curious to me.
Here is Gigantha, a 5-mana 5/5 that doesn't have an ETB.
Yep.
That can tap for when it's not sick. You can tap it to get one of all the Wooburg colors.
Yep.
And then you can only spend that mana
On the
for colored pips.
Yeah, the actual color cost. Yeah, you cannot pay for generic. Yeah.
There is no way that card is bad enough to be banned. The only argument for it is you just have access to it, like you do for all of the companions. If you are losing games in today's battle cruiser format, because someone the turn 4 spent 3 mana to put it into their hand, then the next turn played it, and then beat you to death with a 5/5, you should lose that game.
Okay. All right.
You should lose that game because your combo didn't work out. You didn't put the necessary cards in your deck to like deal with any kind of threat that's above like a 3/3.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I don't even think. I mean, it's being used as being able to as a late game threat.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I just don't feel like that's a decent enough reason to say this card has to be banned. The problem that Spike played it up, and like I think the thing about Spike that he doesn't give himself enough credit for is how much of an influence that he has on the game's personnel. Like a lot of deck lists come from his playtesting, and because of his popularity, like he has a big microphone in front of him, and when he says things, like a lot of people are like, oh, that makes sense. This guy must know because he's really smart, and he is.
Yes.
But like, I also think that he's wrong a decent proportion of the time, and like. His problem is that he plays so much Magic that he sees it.
God, it feels like
so much.
He must play more Magic than almost anybody.
Yeah,
like
Dingo's trying to catch him though. You see Dingo's.
Oh yeah, he's starting to really put in some hours. Didn't he? The thing I saw he did recently was like he has to play until he trophies.
So it took him 3 days.
Jeez.
It took him, I think, 47 events that he had to enter. Like
wow. Like leagues or challenges or whatever, whatever he chose
so
to
if
play.
he lost game 1, he dropped, that counted as a league.
Okay.
And on like his 47th league, I managed to tune back in for the last game that he won to make him 5-0.
Wow.
And it was with Affinity.
Okay.
So.
Jeez. All right. So do you have any other of your specific card choices you want to talk about? Is why that one, or maybe do you want to talk about just kind of like the overall philosophy behind how you made your decisions?
Yeah, basically my thinking is that Wizard gets it wrong a good chunk of the time because they were like, they don't want to put the effort into Modern to determine whether or not cards are safe for the format.
Okay, yeah.
And therefore the easiest choice and the quickest choice is to make them not playable. Take them out.
Yeah.
So cards like Birthing Pod, Ponder, in my opinion, Gigantha, and Jitte are all like, we have seen this now with Splinter Twin and Jace the Mind Sculptor and these other and
Yeah.
Deathrite Shaman, which I think is so much worse than Guide of Souls,
I agree.
that like I can't think of how they positively or negatively impact the format. And if you can't come up with a reason, make them legal and then at least find out, like you did with Grave Troll.
Yeah. Right.
And that got the immediate axe again.
Yeah, it was like the next time
Right.
it was available, they're like, yeah, this thing's gone. Sorry, whoops.
So I thought that those cards were fine to bring back because I didn't think they would have any negative impact on the format.
I think something important to note about the two that of the list that I know would see a good amount of play, Ponder and Deathrite Shaman, is they're inherently fair cards.
Right.
You cannot use those cards like you could Grave Troll to enable a combo of some sort to get, like, it's so hard to get more than just exactly what the card says in value out of one of those cards. Deathrite Shaman is once per turn you get 1 mana, or in exchange for a mana you get 2 life, or your opponent loses 2 life.
With conditions.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you can get out. You can't, unless you use other things, you can't use it multiple times. It doesn't, this is a terrible word, but it's the word that came to mind, doesn't cascade into other things, not in the game mechanic cascade, but just the
It starts a chain
colloquialized
that
version.
knocks
Yeah,
over the dominoes.
this makes this happen, where like Grave Troll or many of the other cards on the ban list that you didn't choose that would come off lead to like, oh, this just makes this thing and then a game ends or whatever. So I think that's also one spot you can always look at, like, okay, what is a relatively safe and maybe even somewhat impactful unban? It's relatively fair cards.
I just want to say, I know I kind of joked around about Mox Opal, but let me give you my actual
go for
logical
it. Go
take
for
on
it.
Mox Opal rewards poor play, in my
Okay.
opinion. Mox Opal has no cost. But whether it is, I mean, in the game,
Yeah,
it is a
it
0
literally
mana
has,
artifact.
you don't have to pay any mana for it. So
Right. So now we have cards like Urza's Saga.
yep,
Okay, so now you can, if I play Urza's Saga, I've spent no mana to play Urza's Saga.
Yeah.
I gain 1 mana.
yeah,
I can now enable creating tokens that can and have for a long time now, a couple years, been able to take over games in the format.
yeah. That was what,
And-
Modern Horizons 2.
Yes.
So yeah, 3 years or something like that.
And it will wish your stupid mana rock, which is already
Yeah.
supported,
Yes.
out of your deck and just puts it on the field. So if you take Urza Saga away,
Yep.
it is just good all by itself,
Yeah.
because artifacts are good all by themselves
Yeah.
for the most part.
They're generally cheap,
Right.
easier to cast. The list goes on.
And so, like, maybe you bring Mox Opal back for a year
Okay.
and people can have fun with it and dust it off or whatever, but then you should put it back on the
Yeah.
ban list.
Right. The last FNM I attended, we did our normal, we go out to eat with whoever of our group is there. We got talking about mostly the way that the format is kind of maintained and curated, and we got into the topic of, it would be really cool if every once in a while Wizards organized like a streamer event where they basically said, okay, and they went to the streamers ahead of time and said, all right, here's the premise of the tournament. We're going to, for this tournament only, ban some cards out of Modern. We want you to play a deck that normally includes one of those cards and see what it would look like without it. Everybody is going to play one of these things, basically as a testing ground for what would happen if we did ban this card, but without them just saying, hey, we're totally thinking about banning this card next, and if you play it too well, it's going to get the axe. And so they'd have to be a little cagey. We know a little bit about it, but it's better than them just coming out and saying, hey, everybody, in 6 months we might ban Mox Opal, and then nobody buys Mox Opal and everybody's freaking out.
Yeah.
And then it looks like it doesn't need to be banned, and then as soon as that window ends and they don't ban it, people play it, and you're like, oh shoot, this should have been gone or whatever, right? So then we could also see, and not just have the theoretical talks about, well, is it or isn't it? We could be like, well, actually we saw, like, they played this tournament where these 8 streamers each played a deck with a high tier Modern deck, but with 1 card taken away from it, and they had to figure out the list from there. And like, okay, and then you could see, like, well, what does it look like without this? What does it look like without that? as a way to then also like have the community play test for you, Wizards, because very clearly they don't have the people power to playtest all of the stuff they need to playtest thoroughly.
Very clearly.
And it's only going to be exacerbated for at minimum the next year because we get 7 standard set releases next year. Less than one every 8 weeks.
There's no way that they've... I mean, I don't want to... Okay.
Yeah.
Your turn.
So, okay. I asked you to categorize your changes.
I think they're safe.
To the forum. You said safe. I gave you safe, spicy, unhinged.
Yeah.
My list is unhinged. Drew, I want you to take a guess as to how many changes you think I said I would make if I was in control.
Well, first of all...
This is total, between bans and unbans, how many changes do I make? You made a total of 6.
I'm going to guess 6.
15.
Oh my god.
So here we go.
That in and of itself is unhinged. For you, it's crazy.
Yes. Okay. Well, so what I am realizing is that we've all thought I'm the hero at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is the beginning of my villain arc because you gave me a little sliver of power and I ran with it.
When did I give you power?
Well, like, the premise gave me power.
Oh, good.
Like, right? I said, okay, imagine I have power. And I picked it up and I just, mwahaha, evil guy laughed with it and said, here we go.
Oh, my goodness.
So get ready for Scorched Earth policy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with, first I'm going to talk about the philosophy behind what I think should dictate the way the format is governed. And I think this really does apply not just to Modern, but to any format. But I don't play any other format, so this is what matters. So my first point was make players make choices. Mm-hmm. Where I really see that taking place in a ban and unban sort of setting is if a card is too ubiquitous across archetypes, across how much it's played, there's no longer a choice to be made. I don't have to decide, what finisher do I want to try to play? Or do I need to plan to beat this kind of thing or this kind of thing? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the One Ring is a great choice. You didn't have to make the choice. It was just, you didn't play it because you didn't own it and you didn't want to own it.
Right.
That was the only reason. So, if I think a card either would increase the choices that players would make by unbanning it or make them have to make choices because right now it's not a choice by banning a card, that was one thing that helped me make the decision. And kind of, I guess, along those same lines, I think there needs to be diversity in deck building across archetypes. So right now, people would be like, but Alan, the format is diverse. Look at all these different, and insert all of the deck names. Mm-hmm. However, if you go to MTG Goldfish, you will find among the top decks, Boros Energy, Esper Gorios, Esper Blink, Jeskai Blink. There's like 20 cards shared between all 4 of those lists. And so they're not really that different. It's just the support cards around this core of things, because they all either have Ephemerate, Quantum Riddler, Solitude, or you take half of that list and shift it over and you add Flage. And all of a sudden it's like, well, look, everybody's playing these cards. Mm-hmm. So, as an example, I would say, the best aggro top end, the best mid-range grindy threat, and the best control win con should not all be the same card. Okay?
So this is Riddler.
So, in some ways, yes, in some ways, no. Riddler factors into a lot of the decisions made here. But so I sat and thought, and I had a lot of decision points where I was like, okay, I think this or this. Mm-hmm. And I had to think through that. But I'm going to start with the unbans because this will be a lot faster.
Sure. Oh, really?
There are 5 unbans like you had. We only disagree on...
Wait a second. Are you going to ban 10 cards out of Modern?
Yes.
You are insane, dude. All right, I can't wait.
I told you this is the start of the villain arc.
Oh my god.
So the unbans, we had 4 of the same ones: Birthing Pod, Deathrite Shaman, Ponder, Umezawa's Jite. I don't think there's much more that needs to be said about any of these. So I wrote little notes for Birthing Pod. I said worse birthing ritual.
Yes, correct.
So Birthing Ritual, you just get it. You look at 7 cards. It happens on turn 2. You don't have to pay any mana or any life. You don't have to tap your thing. Done.
Yeah.
Right? Birthing Pod probably wouldn't even go into Birthing Ritual decks. I don't think it would see an ounce of play beyond people are just excited for it for a minute. The same way we saw people try Splinter Twin. Everybody's like, yeah, okay, Splinter Twin's bad. Put it away. Deathrite Shaman, I said, wouldn't even be top 3 1-drop creatures.
Nope.
So fine. This also factors into some of the decisions I made on the ban list. Okay. Ponder, I said only real complaint is people will take too long to resolve. We already talked about that. Umuzawa's GTA, I literally said next Splinter Twin.
Yeah.
It will not do a thing.
I don't even think that any of those things that it does are relevant and modern anymore.
It's just also just too slow.
Right. I'm going to pay 2 and then equip it and then...
Yeah, right? It's like you're 4 mana invested and you have to have a creature in play and then have that creature deal damage before it does anything. It's just not going to happen. So I did not choose to unban Gigantha.
Sure.
Because I just don't like companions. I would be perfectly fine if you just said, hey, we just removed companion as a mechanic. If you want to play the card for its regular side, then I think you could unban the others and be like, sure. If you just want to play Lurrus as a 3-drop in your deck, go for it.
People would play Lurrus as a 3-drop.
Yes. Many of the others, I don't know, maybe people would play Yorion.
Yeah, there's a world for Yorion.
And I think that's why those are the 2 that were obviously the bans you had to make, because the card was good enough on its own, and then you got access to it not in your opening hand, just when you needed it, sort of thing. So, the only place we differ then is I said unban Bridge from Below.
Wow.
And I said wrong ban when it went.
Oh, which one would you have banned?
Like it was banned to try to reduce Hogak, and Hogak just needed to go.
Oh.
And we didn't really see Bridge from Below doing anything before Hogak. And then the Hogak deck arguably got better after Bridge from Below was banned out of it. And I just think it'd come back, and once again, people would be like, one person would do something with it that is kind of cool, and then you'd realize that Bridge from Below is a card that is relatively easy to deal with. Like, if an opponent's creature dies, it's just gone. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, okay. Like, I have to keep all of their creatures off the battlefield, or I have to get all of its value in one turn, and we have umpteen number of things that are kind of like that.
And it was being played in Dredge, right? That was like Hogak and Dredge basically trying to do similar things.
Yeah, and Dredge is just too easy these days to beat if you want to, so it can't really crop up and do anything. Because as soon as people sniff it, they're like, oh, okay, we'll just put in all of the kinds of good graveyard hate we have access to.
It's the proverbial 1 week if the situation's right deck.
If it happens to come out of nowhere, sure. So I think that is a relatively simple, easy, straightforward list. I sat there and went through the entire ban list and just looked at it card by card, and many of them were just like, nope. Some of them were no, because of what I'm thinking of doing here. And then, others were like, I can tell that this card was banned because it does something with something. I don't know what that something is, but I can tell it does something, and it just doesn't need to be unleashed. We don't need to tempt that. Okay?
Don't keep me in suspense anymore.
Okay.
I want to do this. Let's become a villain.
So, yes. On November the 10th, I would ban 10 cards, 10 for 10, you will.
Do you have them list 1 through 10?
I did not in any order. Literally, what I did is I went through Goldfish and just clicked on top decks, and I looked at deck lists and said that, and just went through. So these are not in any particular order, but we'll talk about them. So the first ban that I would make is Aftermath Analyst.
Oh, so that so Titan can't loop?
Yeah, so it stops infinite Titan loops.
Okay.
So we've talked about this before. This is, once again, one of Aspiring Spike's points. People talk about it in various levels. Is Amulet Titan too good? Does it need to be knocked down a peg? We saw it have one version have a 61% win rate at the recent Pro Tour. At the Modern RC that happened in Houston, I think 2 weeks later, unless you combine all the variants of Blink, which don't even all share colors, it was the most played deck in that tournament. So take with that what you will.
Can I give a counterpoint on that?
Yes.
So everything you just said is true.
Yes.
Here's the other side of it. Mm-hmm. At the Pro Tour, it put one deck into the top 8.
Yep.
It did not win.
Mm-hmm.
At Houston, it put one deck into the top 8, 4 into the top 32, and I don't believe that it won.
I don't think it did. I think Jeskai Blink did.
So, like, if a deck is... My point has always been, like, I don't mind banning Aftermath Analyst.
Yeah.
If it was what's the 1 mana rock that lets them untap?
Amulet of Vigor.
Vigor.
Yeah.
If it was Vigor, which might still be on the list, I'd have a problem with it. But like, I don't mind taking one of their
Yeah, so this
lines
is
of
where
play
I
out of
went
it.
because we have not seen the deck. The deck has been kind of standing in the background for at least 10 years.
I mean, it's
like
been a minute.
it has been kind of the guy standing in the corner that everybody's like, we have to beat the bad guy, we have to beat the bad guy, and then every once in a while somebody goes, who's that?
Yeah.
And they're like, don't mind the shadowy figure over there, don't
Yeah.
worry about him, he's
But
fine.
he's big.
Right? Like he could be scary, but we're kind of just lucky because he just doesn't want to be as scary.
Right. Like he's
right?
like a bear.
Yeah.
I mean, bears could kill humans every time that any bear sees a
right.
human. They just don't care about it.
But so I thought about that and I said, okay, I'll accept the premise that we don't need to just take the deck away. I talked to our friend who plays Titan about this, and I asked, like, okay,
A gentleman.
like, yeah, like, what do you think would happen if Amulet was banned? Do you think that with Spelunking, like, the deck would still survive? And he's like, okay, so like you can kill turn 4 with only Spelunking in the deck. He's like, but I think it just like becomes like you don't ever have the I got to go bigger moments that you get with 2 amulets with Spelunking, and so like there's kind of a cap on what it can do, and it was like that seems to make it so like if you ban Amulet of Vigor, the deck is just gone. And I think if it could get back to the point that I played it in 2022, where you had to like give your one Titan you got into play haste and swing with it, and like the old Sunhome Slayer stronghold thing,
Just for 18.
you know, yeah, and you can double strike and give it +2/+0 haste, like it, if that is where the deck is trying to build toward, I think it's completely fine and cool.
Sure.
It's when you can go from having and I watched him do it a couple of times in the past couple FNMs where it's like it looks like he has 3 things in play and then he swings for infinite damage.
It's
that
so
turn.
cool.
Like it's very cool, but so I think if you can cap a lot of these things, you're able to keep the deck around, but say there's a price because now you have to make choices. I think that where a format like Modern can really shine is when you find a balance where not every single card in a deck is really good and powerful. Like, I think it is such a cool thing when you see a deck that is forced to play bad cards to make good cards work. And then when they come together, you have your peanut butter and chocolate, and you're like, oh my god, look at the thing I did. But this on its own was crap, and this on its own needed help because it's good, but I have to put the pieces together to make the circumstance work for it. And there's too much right now of just like, everything is good, and they work together. So it's like, this is peanut butter and chocolate on its own. This is peanut butter and chocolate on its own. What do you get when you combine them? You know, and so this is where I was trying to look for. So I said Aftermath Analyst takes away the infinite loop possibility. It probably goes back down to, okay, I'm trying to be able to create mana to get a Titan into play fast and then do something with the lands I get right then and there, rather than I can just infinitely loop these around and copy it, and then not care, and then just swing for literally infinite. I think there's a place for some things that are able to go infinite, but not necessarily in the way that Titan is currently doing it.
Sure.
So I said Aftermath Analyst gone.
All right.
Next card on the list, Solitude. So here this is one where I had a lot of thought. My initial thought was I think either Solitude or Ephemerate.
Oh, it's Ephemerate, 100%.
Okay. So here's where I landed.
Okay.
All right. I looked at the play patterns that develop around the cards that use Ephemerate. And the 3 main ones I was looking at were Quantum Riddler, Atraxa, and Solitude.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're the main cards that we are blinking back and forth to get around a cost of putting them into play for cheap and circumventing the downside. And then just gaining value out of them. I think, and so like what I started to think about was if you take away Ephemerate, most of these patterns for these cards kind of disappear. Yes, there is the blue card that is a single blue mana, exile a creature, return it to the battlefield. If it was a spirit, it gets a +1/+1 card. Essence Flux,
Whatever.
I think. That is the substitute for Ephemerate if Ephemerate were not here. I think
But that's not the problem with Ephemerate.
No. The problem with Ephemerate for me comes in when you start to think about the way that Ephemerate starts to become not only this, oh, I kind of pulled off my mini combo, but also it then becomes machine gun removal, and I get to rebound and do it again if
That's
I
the
want.
only problem. That to me, that's the problem.
Yeah, like the fact that it's 1 mana, do the effect twice, get all this stuff. So, for instance, you can do with Atraxa. You put Atraxa into play with Goryo's Vengeance. It gets a trigger. Okay? Then it's supposed to leave, because that's what the restriction on Gorios is you get it for 1 turn. Well, okay, we ephemerate it. We get that trigger, Atraxa's trigger again. We look at 10 more cards, get to pick 1 of each type. So what? You're probably getting 3 to 5 cards every single time you put an Atraxa into play, right? So you're already at 6 to 10 new cards, and then it rebounds and you get 3 to 5 more. You're at 9 to 15 cards you didn't have before. Like, oh, okay, this is gross. So you're saying, well, then why didn't you ban Ephemerate? The thing where I think the critical point came in for me is 2 factors. One, we've already banned Grief and Fury. Yeah. Solitude is the last of these elementals that can be abused in this proactive way. Because I cannot come up with a situation where I've ever seen that blinking Subtlety let me use its effect twice. Right? And so it's like, okay, I can't abuse it on the stack like that. And I can only get rid of my opponent's graveyard 1 time in a single turn that matters. Like, oh, it went off. I got rid of your graveyard. Sweet. It didn't matter if I had a second trigger on my Endurance. So I can't abuse that one in the same way either. So those 2 feel like, hey, we hit the point where it's a way to kind of be protection against some really powerful things at a cost, and then it gets a little bit better later on because, well, if I just have 4 mana, I delay your creature or planeswalker for a turn, and now I have a 3/3 flyer. Cool, right? That feels to me like where the intent for these creatures was and where they should be in Modern. And so 1 is the fact that, like, all right, we already have Grief and Fury gone. Let's get rid of the other one we can do the same kind of thing for. And the only reason it didn't fit with those 2 is because it naturally makes the game take longer and gives people hope. Because it's like, well, I don't have any creatures on my board anymore because they all got Swords to Plowshare away for the same amount of mana, but now I am down 3 of them. And my opponent has a creature in play. But it's because, like, but I'm not closer to death. I'm actually farther away from death. So it makes people feel like they still have a chance. Even though if you get Solitude, Ephemerate, Rebound, Ephemerate, and you lost 3 threats that you had in play, you're probably not winning that game anyway. Right? Like, they spent way less than you did to get to that board state.
Right.
So, 1, let's just take out the trifecta and make it all look the same. Like, okay, this makes sense. This is equal to these 2 things. These 2 things are banned. This one's not. Huh? Strange. So
I don't think that Solitude is any way, shape, or form equal to Grief or Fury.
I think it is exactly the same. It just gives people hope.
No.
Yep. So
I'd be with you on this one if you banned Ephemerate.
So I'm not done yet. The other thing that Solitude enables cards like Ephemerate to do that you cannot do with the other 2 things that, or at least not as effectively, that we use Ephemerate with, is it then also becomes your defensive tool. Because then you always just have the ability to be like, oh, okay, you're trying to kill my Solitude. Well, I blink it, kill your thing instead, and come back. Because the way the games play out when they're trying to use Ephemerate with Quantum Riddler or Atraxa is they are forced to, at a certain point in time, use the Ephemerate. So you know that if you were trying to stop them, you know you have this particular window to aim for. So it allows me to have counterplay with you. So if you're playing something that is trying to go Riddler Ephemerate, you put your Riddler into play, it has to be played at sorcery speed. It is a creature. Doesn't have flash. right? So on your turn, you tap 2 mana, put Riddler in play, draw your card. I know that coming up there, in that turn, you are going to have to play Ephemerate by the time your end step begins. Otherwise, you're going to lose your Riddler. Which allows me, if I have removal, to wait. You have to take the action. I can then kill your Riddler in response, and now I've negated the card advantage you would have gained from it.
And you're killing Riddler with a Delirium.
A Delirium Unholy Heat, a 2 mana black kill spell, whatever it is, right? And so the fact, but because Solitude has Flash, you have to constantly act as if it is a reality whenever you're choosing to attack, whenever you're choosing to put creatures into play, or hold up interaction of any kind, because they can go put this into play, ephemerate it, and then do it all again when their turn comes around. Where you take away that, like, just complete freedom of I get to do this whenever is most advantageous for me. And if you want to pull off your big play, oh look, I put my tracks into play and I'm going to try to keep it around to kind of put the game into my complete control. Well, I'm sitting here on the other side. Okay, you're playing Goryo's Vengeance. I know there's a window for me to do this. And so it makes it where you can still do some of these cool things with Ephemerate without having the play pattern of you're just, if they have it, you cannot win the game, because it gives you an opportunity for interaction.
I'm completely fine with Solitude if Ephemerate's banned. I think Ephemerate is the force multiplier on all these other probably ban-worthy cards by themselves.
So
that makes them so unbelievably abusable.
Yeah, so
get rid of that.
I think where we are is Riddler doesn't get played without an Ephemerate effect.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, on its front side, it's 2 mana, draw a card, and then on turn 5, play a creature. How many 5-drops do we play?
Well, I mean, that's the same. So that's the same argument as Solitude, then, right? Because it's also 5 mana.
Well, but it's never played for 5 mana except for in rare cases, and Riddler doesn't take away the threats. It's not an answer to threats.
Right. We need answers, though. We don't have as many of them as we have threats in the game.
Well, and so what I'm doing is I'm taking away the stupid threats. But Solitude is too good at being both. We've talked about how we don't think cards should be able to be both. It is the last of those free cards that is both. If a card gets to be free, it needs to only be an answer or have a small effect. It cannot be, this is the way I win and the way I don't lose, wrapped up in one.
The problem that I had with Grief and Fury was that you could do them both on turn 1, and that was the design of how they were played.
Yep.
And then they came back better. They killed the thing or protected themselves. Solitude doesn't do that.
You can play it on turn 1.
You can play it on turn 1, and then it dies immediately to any kind of removal.
Well, and so did Grief.
Well, I mean,
so Grief came back as a 4/3. You
show me the deck that people are just playing Solitude on turn 1 and flickering it for no value, and then beating people to death with a 3/2 lifelinker.
This is the problem with Solitude, because it makes you think that it's better than it's okay compared to the other ones, and it's not.
It is.
No, because it's just this slow bleed of value, and there's no way you actually beat it when these decks are abusing it the way they are. It just makes you feel like you can.
Then just get rid of the thing that abuses it, which is Ephemerate.
But Solitude is still a problem.
I disagree.
In that world. Okay, that's why I'm in control right now.
I get it.
Okay, so Solitude is gone. The next card, Consigned to Memory.
Wow.
So, Consigned to Memory has consistently been, for I think the past 6 months, the most played card in Modern.
Okay.
By far. Okay, so at the Modern Pro Tour, out of 32 possible copies in the top 8, there were 27 registered.
Okay.
Anytime we have a situation like that with a card, and with Consigned to Memory, I think there are 2 possible scenarios that explain why it is played in that much. It is either, for its cost, so supremely flexible that you're able to get way more out of it than the mana cost compared to what you can normally do for that mana cost in the format, right? That's one reason why we play cards, is because it's like, this is the best thing I can do at 1 mana, 2 mana, whatever. Like, the One Ring was, yes, 4 mana, generally considered high for Modern, but what you got out of it was way more than 4 mana's worth, okay? So it's either that the card is just so flexible and gives you so much that it's like, this is just a mistake not to play it because I get so much more value out of it than I should for the mana cost. Or it is that it is the only thing keeping something else from being a terror.
That's a good thing.
No, because it forces you to either play the terror or you have to play this card and you have to draw it, which is a bad band-aid on the format because eventually the terror will get loose. Okay? So you need to know which one of those two it is. I think with Consign to Memory, it's very possible that it's both those things. I think either condition is worthy of a ban.
This is unhinged.
Yeah, so Consign to Memory, if Consign to Memory is the only thing holding a format together, you need to know what it is that it's holding back so you can get rid of that. Because that thing is always going to be looming there as a problem. Okay? And I think Consign to Memory isn't, oh, well, this one card over here is the thing Consign to Memory is holding back. It's the fact that there's so many things that are beneficial to hit on both proactive and reactive sides that it's getting to the point that every sideboard just starts with 4 Consign Memory unless for some reason you don't have access to blue mana. Right? And what that does is it makes it so it's like, well, we used to have to decide how to play against, for instance, big mana strategies in our sideboard. Are you a Blood Moon or Harbinger deck? Are you running Cleansing Wildfire and Break the Ice? Are you running Obsidian Charmaw? The choice now is, why would I play those when I just play Consign to Memory? And what people started to figure out when we originally only use it as a defensive tool is they're like, wait, this is kind of good for me to use to make my own thing a little bit better. And now it is just all over the place doing both things. And I think if you get rid of this card, people now once again have to make choices again about how do I want to counter certain strategies. And now more cards that are worthy of being played in Modern. Every card that I just listed that no longer gets played because of Consign to Memory is a worthy Modern card. Right? Charmaw, Blood Moon, Harbinger, all those types of things are good enough to see play in Modern.
Okay.
But they don't anymore because you just play Consign to Memory instead.
Why does Consign to Memory? Oh, because it's a better answer to something.
Because it's a better answer than all of those things. Why would I attack your colorless deck, which is generally what we are attacking with Blood Moon and stuff like that? Is half the point is to stop colorless mana generating Tron style sort of things when I can just play Consign.
Sure.
Right?
I guess my answer would be then is now I have 8 reasons. I have 8 ways to attack them as opposed to 4.
Well, but you had all the other ways to do it, right? And so like Consign is now also being played alongside all of these ephemerate cards because like, wait, this one also does it. So now I have the ability to stop many things my opponent's doing and also just make my stuff even better. We're getting to the point where there's too many ways to cheat these things into play, and it's supposed to be a series of hoops you have to jump through to pull it off, and then, hey, that's cool, versus it just being like, well, I've got now 8 really solid cards I can just play that not only make it so I have access to removal, I can interact with my opponent, and I get to pull off my game plan so consistently that, like, it is now not, look at the cool thing I pulled off. It's, this is just going to plan, and if it doesn't, something went wrong. So like I think if this card is basically like a mandatory include, then we need to figure out either what's the thing that actually needs to get taken out because this thing is the only band-aid holding it in check, or it's just too flexible and goes in too many things, so it's just seen everywhere, and that gets so boring with a format when we don't have to make choices about which cards do I play and how do I attack this, that, or the other thing. Like, I can't tell you the last time, except for when I was playing Yawgmoth, my only deck that doesn't play blue, that my sideboard wasn't just, well, here's 4 consigns, and let's now build the other 11 cards. And I don't think that should happen. It shouldn't be that every single strategy just wants this card no matter what.
In those decks, are you using it both defensively and offensively?
No, I'm not, because I don't, play some of the other cards, but it's still good enough to just be an automatic 4 of.
So I look at Consign the same way that I look at Thoughtseize. It's a cop.
Yeah.
It helps put brakes on a format that otherwise doesn't.
But now
have
this
brakes.
is a cop that's also a criminal. Because it's also now the thing that is doing the degenerate stuff. It's not just stopping the degeneracy. It is both enabling it and then stopping it just in return. Because it's
Well,
saying, like, oh, I'm going to consign the warp trigger, or
yeah.
Phlage's sacrifice it trigger, or whichever thing you're using. And it's just like, oh, okay. So now I can do that, and now I have the tool to stop it when you try to do it. So it just becomes like, this card is just everywhere, and I want more variety than just, well, I have to play this because it is clear and by far the best way to fight X, Y, and Z, and also very clearly one of the best ways to enable A, B, and C.
I guess I just don't have an issue with it, because you can fight A, B, and C, or X, Y, and Z, which is the Eldrazi decks, which would run rampant.
I don't think so. Also because of things I haven't gotten.
Sure.
To, right? So the next card, this one is where a little bit of the power got to my head, because Personal Vendetta card for the most part.
Well, this is interesting because the first two were pretty surprising.
Teferi Time Raveler. I literally, first time I said Personal Vendetta.
Yeah.
It is one of my least liked cards. The other thing I said is don't make the game into Hearthstone, which is basically what it does for one player. Like Magic, one of the things that has made Magic better than all of these other copies and clones we've seen is that you get the ability to choose to play on both turns. It's not like you get to sit and watch while I do a thing, and then I sit and watch while you do a thing. This is constantly a back and forth, and I don't like that the card makes it so that one player's just like, oh no, never mind. I have to play a different game. Mm-hmm. Like Hearthstone has a rule like you don't get to do anything on your opponent's turn. You do your stuff, then you put everything down and sit. I like that Magic is this. Maybe I am doing something on your turn. I get to decide how to use it, but mostly it's a Personal Vendetta card. So
yeah, I really like Teferi.
Yeah, and that's fine. The next card on the list, Pinnacle Emissary.
Sure.
I said no real cost. You put 1 mana into play, and then you just spew out 1 billion tokens that are artifacts. We've talked about how those get abused, all this sort of stuff. I think it makes the deck that plays it too consistent at just having a massive board of cheap things that then you abuse too consistently, and then you just have it sitting there to play again. Like, why do we keep on having these mechanics that say make a decision, but it's not really a decision because you get both. Mm-hmm. You get to have your cake and eat it too. Like, so many of the things I was thinking was going through this is like, I want you to have to jump through hoops to pull off the big cool thing. And I think we're at this point right now where so many things, you don't really have to jump through any hoops. Mm-hmm. It's just like, I think you've said it a lot about like Arena. It's turned people and just, oh, my card lit up, do it.
Right.
And that's to me what this card is. It's like, oh, bing, 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 yay. Oh, I just get to do it later again too because, oh, I don't have anything to do this turn. Oh, wait, never mind because I spewed my whole hand on turn 1. Never mind, I'll just play this card because I have it sitting around and now I get value out of every other card I get to play too. So, like, whatever. Alongside Pinnacle Emissary, Kappa Cannoneer. So, the decision I made here is I said, okay, and right next to Kappa Cannoneer I said, you want Mox Opal? Then pay the price. People want Mox Opal for some reason. I agree with you that the card is just stupid. Well, we don't have any other Mox I guess, except for Mox Amber in Modern. Why do you get the easiest one to enable that is at least considerable in the format? Right? Like, we're not going to put the original Moxen in. We're not going to do some of these other things. But of the available Moxen in Modern, like, it is so much easier to enable Mox Opal than any others. Mm-hmm. But if people are like, no, we want our Mox Opal, I just spent another $180 per copy on it. Okay, fine, you want that? Then I'm going to take away the tools that make it easy for you to just say, I did it! Right? Kappa Cannoneer is on par with the same size of other big threats we see. When it comes down, it's a 4/4, immediately turns into a 5/5 because it triggers itself for some reason, right? And then easily becomes bigger than that, right? Yeah. Like, normally when you're getting attacked by a Kappa Cannoneer, it's at minimum a 6, which is 6 power, 6 toughness. Okay, you're looking at Atraxas a 7/7, Riddler's a 4/6 flyer. So it's on par size-wise with those things. It is just as fast, if not faster. None of those other cards we've mentioned can come down turn 1.
Right. That's why it's faster.
Kappa Cannoneer you can. And then it is basically uninteractable.
Right.
Because its mana value is too high to target with stuff that cares about that. It has Ward 4, which, like, we're getting rid of Hexproof. Let's put a Ward 4 on a creature.
Can I bring up a point here?
Yeah.
You can consign the Ward trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nothing else really hits it.
Yeah.
Because like if it is
Because
a
now you
5/5,
also have to have enough something good enough to actually kill it.
right
Right.
on turn one.
Yeah.
So like to your point
Yeah.
earlier, like I have people don't seem to understand that you have to trigger a ward. Like
Yeah.
if I target it, you have to put ward on the stack.
Yes.
And then I can consign it.
Right.
And there's been it doesn't happen very often because you have to have a number of cards in your hand in order
Yeah.
to do
Right.
it.
You have to have the right circumstances have to come up.
Yeah, but I have Solitude for free.
Yeah.
Target, put it on the stack, consign the ward
Yeah.
trigger, gotten rid of it. Now I'm
Right.
down 3 cards.
Yeah.
But I don't lose the game.
Exactly. But so this is one of the things, and like I like that you brought up this point with like, well, you can do this with consign. If we didn't have access to something like consign, this thing would be even worse.
Yeah, it's awful.
And so it's one reason why I like getting rid of consign, because then it makes things like this become apparent. I already think I know about this one. I think there would be others also would be like, oh, because everybody was complaining consign, we didn't quite realize how bad this could be. And now we're going to make it apparent so we can fix it. So it's not, you have to play consign to memory forever. Right? But yes, like you can do that with consign, but I think then people are like, oh no, see, the Cap Canyon's fine. I'm like, no, it's the problem is now I have to play this other card that this deck also plays. Right? And Cap Canyon is just as big as all the big threats. It comes down faster and it is uninteractable, because it essentially is hexproof. And yes, you can interact with it on the stack, but because it comes down so fast, the odds of you having the right stuff on the stack, like available to stack interact with it, is so low. Because then also, if a good player sniffs it out and they're like, oh, they're holding up the counterspell, I'll just hit you with my 4 free 1/1s that I got last turn.
Yeah.
Because of Pinnacle Emissary.
Right.
So this was my idea. And this is basically, I literally said this sitting on my couch up loud as I was writing Kappa Cannoneer right after Pinnacle Emissary on my list. I said, you want Mox Opal, pay the price. So I didn't ban Mox Opal. You're welcome, all of you Mox Opal fans. I just took away your other toys. So now maybe you have to play Frogmite. So like, there's a price to getting to keep Mox Opal. Here it is. The next card, Urza's Saga.
Yeah, that's fine.
Urza's Saga is just, it doesn't even cost mana. It's a uninteractable free action you get to take once per turn. And like, does anybody not understand the immense value you get out of this card at this point? It is often talked about as a good plan B, but it's really also just plan A, because it goes and fetches up the artifact that you need to do all of this stuff. And also the thing I like about this is another way to like take a little chip off of Titan while keeping Titan around. So we're not getting rid of archetypes unless it is absolutely necessary. I like the philosophy of let's find a way to keep an archetype around unless there's no way to kind of rein it in, like with a ban philosophy. So instead of always just being like, hey, this deck right now is getting let out of control, drop a nuke on it. Instead it's like, tick, tick, we'll just trim around the edges, see if we can give it a haircut and make it look like, oh, Titan's cleaned up a little. Nice. You're looking good today is kind of the goal. Urza Saga just goes into too much. It gives you too much. And like that sort of thing. I wrote something here, and this is a thing that maybe we should talk about another time. And I've talked about it a lot, how I think they design many things wrong.
Yeah.
I said, interesting if it couldn't tap for mana. What if Urza Saga was your land drop, but it never gained the tap for a colorless mana ability?
Interesting.
Then it's like, okay, I'm using it for these other things it gets to do, but it comes at a cost now. I played as my land, but now, even though it's turn 2, I still only have access to 1 mana. So then turn 3, I have to make another land drop, and then I can start using its other abilities. And then it kind of forces you where now it's like, well, because I got to tap for mana, then maybe I just do some of these other things. And even though it's going away for this turn, I still get to float a mana and then go get my artifact and blah, 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 blah. Right? I think Urza Saga would be a lot more interesting to me if it couldn't tap for mana. So, there we go. That's that. The next card, Flage, Titan of Fire's Fury. I have heard people make the just completely insane comment that they say, Uro isn't even as good as Flage.
That is insane.
And it's dumb, because here people, and this is how I always respond to them, I say, okay, I want you to imagine this. I go turn 1, land. Mana Accelerator, Utopia Sprawl, Delighted Halfling, Noble Hierarch, I don't care. Something that gives me access to a second mana the next turn. Arboreal Grazer, whatever. I go to my turn 2, I play a land. I use that plus my Mana Accelerator to cast Uro. Uro's 2 triggers go on the stack. I resolve 1, I draw a card, I gain 3 life, I put a land into play, I use that land to create blue mana in some fashion, fetch land, or it just creates blue on its own. I then consign my Uro's trigger. Now on turn 2, I have 3 lands in play plus a Mana Accelerator. I have drawn an extra card, gained 3 life, and I have a 6/6. Tell me what Flage has done on turn 2. It's rotted in your hand. Anyway, I still think Flage is worthy of banning because it follows the same premise that Uro did, that once Flage enters the game becomes about Flage. He's like, shoot, that thing's going to come back. Okay, I killed it. Shoot, it's going to come back again. We also can pair it with Arena of Glory to do the haste 12 damage sort of nonsense. But the thing that really got me was that I go back to the point of like the diversity in deck building. I think Flage is very often, it's the best top-end card for a card like Boros Energy. I guess probably qualified as a mid-range deck, just because it doesn't win super fast, but it can. It's kind of an aggressive leaning mid-range at least, right?
Yeah.
But it's also then a great inclusion in Domain Zoo, a very aggressive deck. It's also the best win con for control decks. They've all started playing like, okay, it's Jeskai, so we can run Flage because, okay, it's removal, it gains me life, and then it's just the next best thing to come out. You shouldn't have one card that is the best thing to do in those 3 very different archetypes, in my opinion. So if you get rid of Flage, Boros Energy, that style deck has to pick something different, and it's something very different than Domain Zoo will pick, and it's something very different than Control will pick to fill those slots. And now we've made choices, we have more diversity, I think the format's better overall. And so just like, well, Uro's ban should never come off the ban list. If Modern's at a point where Uro's okay, I'm really scared about what Modern looks like.
It's because it's Legacy.
Yeah, right. It's gotten to the point
It's
where
also
it's just
banned
like,
in Legacy.
yeah. So like, okay, here we go. So I think Flage is gone. Next card, down to our last 2. Ugin's Labyrinth. I think a relatively free soul land just is too good.
Okay.
And as we mentioned when we were talking about Consign, you also, if you're banning Consign, you have to make sure you take out some of the things that Consign keeps in check. I think taking out Ugin's Labyrinth really hits a lot of those colorless big mana Eldrazi decks.
Okay.
They then only have Eldrazi Temple to rely on, and that has, I think, enough of a built-in setback that it only works for Eldrazi spells that, okay, we can work with this. The last card, Goblin Charbelcher. I said Magic is designed around lands, play them. Like, I think the cute factor of, oh no, I play the MDFCs is like, yeah, like, I think that's a really crappy way, excuse me, to get around the I'm not actually playing lands thing, right? I think the card's dumb. I think it's even worse that people were allowed to play with their MDFCs with the backside face up naturally in their deck for an entire Pro Tour. And if that's what we're doing, stop. Sorry, this stuff is nonsense. Like, let's get it out of here. So, those are the 15 changes I would make to Modern if I was in control. I also understand that if they put me in control for that day, I would not be in control in November the 11th.
Right.
So, but this is where I ended up. Like I said, started my villain arc. I let power go to my head. I made lots of changes.
You sure did.
So, the interesting thing for me going through this exercise was that there were a lot of points where I was like, ooh, is it this or is it this? For instance, when I was looking at Flage, I was considering Guide of Souls. But then I said, okay, if I'm willing to unban Deathrite Shaman, and part of my argument was it wouldn't even be the top 3 1-drops in the format, maybe we keep that dynamic and we take out the thing that is filling so many roles in so many different archetypes, like Flages. Or like we talked about Solitude versus Ephemerate. I would be very happy still to have Ephemerate on this list as well.
Yeah, I'm shocked it's
or
not.
or even in place. But so what I was trying to do was retain the ability to do some of the cool things, but you have to pay a price to get the cool things. And like, how do I make you still have to jump through hoops in order to do it? I don't know if a deck like Gorios remains good enough without some way to like keep the threat that you Gorios in play, which is what they use Ephemerate for. So like, okay, in an effort to keep Gorios around the same way I made an effort to keep Titan around, keep Ephemerate, but we're going to take away the way better than Swords to Plowshares card.
When you Gorios back Atraxa, what is the... It gains haste?
Yeah, so Gorios gives it haste and says like at the end step, then it'll be exiled.
Exiled, okay.
Yep. So very, very much like when you use Emperor of Bones.
Okay.
So very similar templating will do that. And so I said, okay, in an effort to not completely take away any archetypes, let's try it this way. I don't think you lose any archetypes if you take away Solitude. I think you might if you lose Ephemerate.
I don't care about that.
But so like I was saying, if I was doing it in for some decks, I had to try to do it for all of them. So
It's a ban... No.
yeah.
So I disagree with that premise because ban lists very clearly target specific decks.
Yes, under the way Wizards currently runs it, I am now running it. That is my philosophy to try to do. Is keep decks around without nuking them out of the water.
I think you created a format where Eldrazi decks just are the undeniable kings.
I took away Ugin's Labyrinth and Urza Saga.
Yeah, I would just play a regular Tron mana base with Eldrazi Temple.
But you also have
power out.
We've always had ways to fight Tron.
None of them have actually gotten Tron out of the format.
Because you don't need to get Tron out of the format. It just has to not be a dominant force. And when was the last time Tron was a dominant force?
Well, I mean, like I would say that like the fact that Tron is just getting different aggressive tools, or not even. Well, I mean, like.
I mean, half the Eldrazi decks right now don't even play Tron lands because they're playing colored cards, and so they can't play the Tron lands. But they're able to pull it off because of Ugin's Labyrinth, and they have 8 soul lands. If they go down to 4 soul lands, you can't just then switch to a Tron mana base and still play things like Micah Spawn or Brood Scale or things like that.
Well, I mean, I still think that those decks are going to play that because they'll find a way to get those things out, and like, yeah, maybe it's one turn later, but like you've also given them 4 more cards. We don't know what they would put in those decks.
Yeah, right.
But now you have whatever room, and maybe that's the space for some other huge problem. I don't know.
But then that's why we also whenever a format's never done. So if Eldrazi turns out to be a big menace, okay, now we know this is a problem. Let's deal with that next.
So like, my issue with your ban list is that it's way too heavy on what I consider to be answers being removed from the format.
What answers besides Solitude is gone?
I would say Consign to Memory is an answer.
Okay.
As it counts, like I can, if I'm on the play, I can hold up a fetch land, and if I'm playing against a Titan player, and they go Amulet of Vigor, I can get rid of it.
You can Spell Pierce. You can still do that.
Right, but once again, and when I have tried to build decks, the advice that I have gotten from you is, why would I play Spell Pierce if you could play Consign to Memory?
Yeah, because Consign to Memory is just so much better than everything else. So get rid of it. So you have to make a choice about what cards you want to play. You want to play Spellslinger, or you want to play Spell Pierce? What decks do you want to target? Instead of saying I can target everything. You've said you don't want Magic to be dumb and you don't have to make choices. Consign is a card where you don't have to make choices because it's so good.
Then,
you just play it.
What you're doing then is you are saying go down to the next most ubiquitous card.
But not everybody will play Spell Pierce that played Consign.
Sure.
So now we make choices.
When my choice is that for the deck that I'm playing, when I'm running up against a deck that wants to go a turn 1 artifact or an Eldrazi card, I have a way to answer that for less mana.
Yep.
I can also, you're right, use Consign as an aggressive threat. I've done that because I played
you played with Flage, right?
Flage and Null Drifter,
Doorkeeper Thrall,
and Doorkeeper.
Null Drifter was the Eldrazi.
The
other things. There we go. Null Drifter,
those cards were not trying to abuse Consign and Null Drifter, Doorkeeper Thrall. to the
Yeah.
degree to which they probably could have been abused, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Here's my other concern is that if these are gone, Wizards will not stop printing unbelievably ridiculous threats.
And they're not.
And now
gonna
we
do
have
that
fewer
anyway.
tools. We have fewer tools to get rid of those threats in the future than we do now. So
Yeah.
what's the next version of these things that they will have to add back in?
And maybe it's different, right? So like,
But they're not going to become better at doing it.
yeah, but no matter what we do to the format, that argument is in place. They're still going to make mistakes. We will always have to answer more mistakes, no matter what. And so I'm just saying, I think these cards as they stand are not healthy for the way I think the format should go. And that shouldn't be a defense for, well, we know they're going to make more mistakes. Yeah, and then we have to fix those. We've never had a perfect format, right?
Sure, I think this also, like, if you've classified this as unhinged, I would try and commit you for it.
Okay.
Because this is nuts as far as I am concerned. I don't think this makes anything more fair, or that you have to make choices in card selection in order to, like, quote unquote, even the deck archetypes out. I think what this does is it basically says you go back to a place where Boros Energy is going to run you over because the real villains are Guide Pride.
Yeah, but
in
if
deck.
Guide Pride is the thing and it's not backed up by Flage, you can now play removal and it actually does something against the deck.
Sure, but then, yeah, so
Right.
like the problem is the removal is only good against that thing. That's the problem. Is that, like, I mean, Lightning Bolt is down in play to the point where it's like it's not even being really included in red decks anymore because
Yeah.
it doesn't answer anything,
Yeah.
right? So we don't need to bolt the bird anymore, even when we have things like Guide of Souls in the format. You need a ubiquitous answer to an overpowered threat. If you got rid of every single overpowered threat that something like Solitude could get rid of, or that Consigned to Memory can get off the stack, then I'm on board with some of these.
But so like, and maybe we and it's okay if we just disagree on the philosophy here. I don't think you should have to be like, well, I have to play Solitude because otherwise I can't answer things. Then you're shoehorned into doing a certain thing, and then the format is worse for it. So if Solitude is the only thing gluing the format together, we need to make more changes to the format to make it so Solitude isn't a necessary thing you have to play if you're saying, I need to be able to stop somebody from doing one of 7 different things.
So I think the chief difference that you and I have on this list is that I thought that the Grief Fury modern format was the worst format that I've ever seen in my entire life, including Eldrazi Winter.
It's hard to disagree that Eldrazi Winter was better than that.
Oh, I would so much rather play against Eldrazi Winter than Grief.
And I'm on
Fury.
the exact opposite side.
Grief
of that.
and Fury did not allow anyone to play a multitude of decks.
Yep.
You could not play decks with small creatures in them. You could not play decks with answers in them because Grief
And
simply
you
took
couldn't
them
play
away
a
from
modern format in Eldrazi Winter.
you. You could play Magic.
But no, you just got ran over turn 3 by a bunch of Eldrazi.
Right.
And so how is that playing? I took 2 turns and then died.
Right. So to me, we're saying the same exact thing because Grief and Fury didn't let anyone play Magic.
I played so many 10-turn games against that deck that it's not even funny.
Well, I remember getting my cards ripped out of my hand.
And
then never drawing an answer because I didn't have any answers to draw against a 4/4 menace creature that took 2 cards out of my hand before I could do anything.
So...
And I don't remember being able to put a bunch of Guide Pride creatures onto the battlefield because Fury killed them all 4 or 5 times.
Yes. I think Fury was worse than Grief.
Those cards are oppressive.
And I think Solitude is just in a different way.
Those cards, I think, answered multiple cards.
And you're arguing for Solitude to be an answer because it answers multiple cards. Grief did the same thing. Let's bring Grief back
Solitude
instead.
answers a single card. Ephemerate makes it the problem.
And Grief only answered a single card until the other stuff that they didn't ban made it take away multiple cards.
Sure.
Fury, I 100% agree, is the completely egregious one on its own because even just the way they printed the card, it can answer 4 for 1. Sorry, 4 for 2. Whatever. Right? Fury, yes. If we think Solitude's okay, let's ban Ephemerate, bring back Grief. I'll make that trade.
I would never make that trade.
Okay.
Grief is a card that does not allow you to play Magic.
But I'm saying the way you're talking about Solitude is the exact same way Grief is.
I disagree because I think that
Let's bring Grief
when
back
you
and ban all of the black one-drop things they use to scam it. What about then?
I still think it's worse than Solitude because you get to look at my hand, have perfect information, and then you get to take the worst thing for you out of my hand before I can do anything.
Thoughtseize.
I don't get to have. At least you have to play something. At least you have to like, and that's your turn. You get to still do things on your turn. If
Solitude, you get to put down a threat and then answer mine with only 1 mana. Like, I don't see how that's any different.
If on your turn, if you want to go, if you want to do this, you can exile a card, Grief, look at my hand, play a land, and then Thoughtseize in my hand.
Okay.
I don't get to do that with Solitude.
Solitude, you go, okay, I'm going to play whatever it is I play in my turn. Oh, you played a creature, I'm going to use my Solitude, get rid of it. Now I have a thing, and you don't have a thing.
Right.
You're down the same number of things.
So like if I'm going
it's just that it happened on the battlefield rather than in your hand.
Right. And so like at least at that point we have played Magic, and we are both being able, and you are saying, I'm going to play a threat, I'm going to remove a threat.
So we need to ban Thoughtseize and Inquisition.
You can't ban Thoughtseize.
It's doing the same thing Grief is.
It's not doing the same thing. It's not free.
Solitude's free too. That's the point I'm making.
But it's a
one for one.
It's a 1-for-1 card that gets rid of something.
So is Grief.
Once you have started, maybe I'm just coming at this from a Jund point of view, where it's like I'm trying to 2-for-1 somebody. Like if I'm just going to play Solitude.
Yep.
Then what is the real difference? I don't see a real difference between being like, I bolt your thing on turn 1, and then on turn 4, I'm going to exile a card on my hand and exile the thing that you played on turn 4.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, you're saying Grief is is too good even on that level of play,
right?
When it's doing the exact same thing Solitude is. It's a 1-for-1 answer that I had to discard a card and I got to play it for free.
You also get to know what's in your opponent's hand.
Okay, I got rid of their threat on the battlefield. Grief doesn't take away thing you've already played. It can't answer that.
But I can also have basically but like Grief is also basically like playing, what is that card? Gitaxian Probe. You get most of the benefits of playing Gitaxian Probe along with Grief on the first turn.
Okay.
And so but you're telling me that it doesn't matter that I have perfect knowledge of my opponent's hand before I even commit to playing like a land?
But like the point I'm making is you can do the same thing with other spells in the same way that Solitude bypasses the downside of removal.
If you're going to equivocate, whatever it is.
Words are hard. Yeah.
Equality.
Yeah.
If you're going to put Grief on the same level as Thoughtseize, then go ahead and ban Solitude, but you give me Sword to Plowshares in the format.
Okay.
Fine.
Done.
That's great.
Yeah. I think that's totally fine, because I think Swords is worse than Solitude.
Okay.
And I'd rather have Swords than Solitude. I would be happy to have Swords in the format.
I guess my problem with
because we can't abuse Swords in any of the ways, and Swords isn't free.
It's not free.
And I think that's really where all this comes in, and why I kept Grief and Fury on the ban list and added Solitude, because it's free. Ephemerate you have to at least pay mana for. Ephemerate does stupid things. Right?
Ephemerate costs less than 1 mana to play.
Yes, but you still have to have a land in play to tap it to get the chain started. So I'm not saying Ephemerate is a good card or wouldn't end up later on. I'm saying that like if we're talking about Solitude as a card in and of itself, the fact that it is a free answer, I think is the inherent problem and why it should go.
So,
regardless of if Ephemerate was never printed, I think the same way that we've banned Fury and Grief with very reasonable arguments, the same kinds of arguments can be made about Solitude, so let's put it in the same spot.
Here's new reason why Ephemerate has to go. Ephemerate has to go because the other cards that blink
are way worse.
Qualifiers on them that do not allow them to be abused to the level that Ephemerate is being abused.
I will happily add Ephemerate to my list.
Great.
Like, I think that is fine. But I think arguing that Solitude is necessary to hold the format together shows an inherent problem with the card. And I think we need to get to a point where we don't have a couple of Band-Aids keeping the thing together.
So, how much of this do you feel this is created because we are in quote-unquote battle cruiser Magic right now?
I think this is less about where the format is currently, because I think, honestly, the format is actually fairly good right now. Is it my real style that I'd love to see going back and forth? No, I've watched 0 matches from the most recent Pro Tour. Part of that is because that and the RC, they stick just here's the whole stream on YouTube. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here and scroll through 10 hours to find
10
the ones
hours
I
of
want to
fun.
watch. If they put up and said, hey, here's round one, it was this deck versus this deck, I probably would have watched some. But I'm at that lazy point in my life where, like, we used to just be like, yeah, let's watch 10 hours of Magic. And I'm like, I don't have that in me anymore. And so, to be fair, part of it is just logistics. But like, if you were like, okay, they're going to make no changes on November 10th, I'd be like, all right, fine. I think
bet they make changes in standard.
yes, absolutely. So this is not so much a reaction to the format as it currently stands. And I looked at just the way things are playing out and the way I see like certain cards. Like, how many different decks have we seen Urza Saga in?
So the number one thing that I think that if I had to say, like, most of the things that you put in this bucket, that bucket would be labeled ubiquitous.
Yeah, like Urza Saga has been in 18,000 decks since it came out. And I think that's just a crappy way to have a format. Like, there should be format staples. I'm not arguing that there's not that. I think the more ubiquitous cards need to, one, have a very solid cap. Like, if Lightning Bolt is one of your most played cards in a format, I think that's a sign that, like, this format is completely fine. Because Lightning Bolt never does more than just what it says on the card. But a card like Urza Saga being one of your most played cards in the format says, like, this thing is abusable in so many ways by so many different strategies, or just one deck has completely taken over, which isn't the case. We haven't seen where just one Urza Saga deck becomes the biggest thing, and it's just like, Eldrazi Winter sort of, Hogak sort of numbers, right? But it's just been like, oh, well, it's in that deck, it's in that deck, it's in that deck, it's in that deck. Man, it's just always been in like 5 completely different decks.
Yeah, if you can
And I
play
think
it,
that's worse for the format.
if you can play it in the affinity list that's out now, like,
Yeah.
it's like there's just nothing that's ever gonna say, like, there's
Yeah.
never room for this.
Right. And so when I see that with a lot of things, so this list, when I looked at, was either a scalpel or just a broom. Is kind of the way it's like. So like the Aftermath Analyst Band is using a scalpel. We need just to trim just a little bit off of this thing to bring it back down to earth. And other things, just like Urza Saga, it's just freaking everywhere. And I want to be able to play something else. I don't want to be like, if I'm playing Obsidian Charmaw, it's because I'm just purposely choosing a worse way to do it, no matter what my actual archetype is, because Consign is just better in every single way. Like, the only way that a card like Charmaw is better than Consign to fighting the things that Charmaw can fight, like where you would consider these sideboard slots for, is if somehow I'm like cheating the Charmaw into play, but I can't be doing it for better than 1 mana, and so Consign is still just better.
Can you remind me what you feel these two things fight in common?
Like the colorless Eldrazi sort of decks, because Charmaw blows up lands, and it's cheaper if there's colorless lands. And the very first thing that people started playing Consign for was like, wait, this is really good at fighting these colorless Eldrazi decks, because after MH3, Consign came in at MH3, right?
I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, whether or not it came in MH3 or not, that's when it started to see play. So it's either from the moment it was incepted or the moment it became necessary. It's like, well, got to fight against these kind of colorless Eldrazi decks, and whether they're Tron based or this other stuff. Like, okay, and so the first place people started playing it is because it says colorless card. And we used to play. There was a different 1-mana counter spell that was just like counter a colorless spell. I don't remember. I think it was in like the Kaladesh block.
Yeah, I'm trying. I can see it.
I don't remember what it's called.
Ceremonious rejection.
Yeah, I think that's it. Good pull there.
Blue.
Like, so like people sometimes used to play that card in small numbers in a sideboard. And then Consign came out and we said, oh, this is just a completely strict upgrade in like 3 levels to that card. Because not only is it colorless, well, it's also the abilities and you can replicate it.
Right.
So like, okay, and so the first place people started playing it was to counter the colorless decks. And then we started realizing, oh, it's actually kind of good against that too, because I want to stop that really important ability. Okay. And then it's just kind of steamrolled from there. So like at level 1, consign was fight colorless cards, and it's just pushed all of the other fight colorless cards out. And I think that sucks just because some of them are cool and interesting, and like the decision between, do I think I can pull off a Blood Moon or a Harbinger in my deck versus no, but I could run Charma as a sideboard threat that then becomes a 3-mana good threat to fight these colorless things, but then also put a clock on them, is interesting. But in every single iteration now, it's like just play consign unless you don't make blue mana. And I think that's just a worse place to be, because it's just like, well, it's just decision over.
It's the only way the blue gets played.
Yeah, and I think that's unfortunate. I think part of that is like, we've got so much of this stuff going around that like, is Counterspell even good anymore?
No, it's not. It's too slow.
And that's terrible. So I think we need to rethink how to do that. And so this was like the first attempt at like, okay, what do I think is causing some of these things to be? And let's just like take some chips off of places at cards I think are like often ubiquitous just because it's like, well, it's just when it's so good that you just have to play it. Or like, 7 different completely different decks can play the card is like, I think that's where a card is too good. Things can be really good, but maybe narrowly. No other deck plays Primeval Titan. I always want to call the card Amulet Titan. No other deck plays that card, right? But it's an extremely good card, but you have to set it up.
You've talked me out of playing it in other decks.
Yes, because you have to do the setup for it. Like if you're trying to, not then abuse its trigger to then continue doing other things, I don't think it's as good as other things. For instance, if you're, persisting it into play, persisting Archon is up here, persisting Primeval Titan's down here. Like, yeah, it's a big thing you can do, but like you got 2 more lands to go next turn. Well, wasn't the whole point to get the big thing into play?
But I feel like that argument is in direct competition with the logic that went into these things.
Explain.
Like, oh well, why not persist a Primeval Titan out of your graveyard? Oh, because you should want to do Archon, the better thing.
Yeah.
So why should I play Spell Pierce when I can play Consign to Memory?
Because Persist Archon is in one deck, is what I'm saying. It's not in every deck.
But do you play Archon without Persist?
No, but they're pieced together.
Right.
So like it's okay for cards to naturally have synergy, and so like you can't play an Archon without a Persist type card, and we have no other Persist. No other card that tries to do that is anywhere close to the cost and efficiency of Persist. So that's how we have a Reanimator deck, is you have this one thing you can do. And like I don't think it's a problem if like those 2 cards are played together in this one archetype. It would be if you were putting it into 5 other archetypes as well, because it's just so easy and good to do.
I really hate to do this to you, but like the thing that I think has made me okay with so much of the stuff that's on this list is that like Modern is slowly becoming Legacy, and this is what you see in Legacy.
Do you see the same cards in all different archetypes?
I think that, well, the Legacy play pool is bigger, but like I do
the card pool, yeah.
So I watch
some
2 Legacy streamers, with pretty for regularity, and I think that I would say yes to that question in both what they're playing and in what they're playing against. And so like I watched a guy, I think his name's Thraben Yu, play like a mono white stompy deck.
Oh, all right.
And it's Guy Pride.
Like,
and those are the 2 best
like kind
white
of
one drop
the
creatures.
evolution of like taxes I'm just trying to like figure out the broad landscape that I barely understand about Legacy.
So like the thing that I would say about Legacy is that they have so many tools.
Yeah.
So many answers to those things that like you do have a balance. The problem that I find in Modern is even though we have a massive card pool, that card pool is dominated by about 3 sets worth of cards.
Yeah.
Modern should basically be called Modern Horizons Extended.
Yeah, right. It's Modern Horizons and then put in other stuff around it.
And the reason that the card pool is really so small is because they changed their design philosophy,
Yep.
and they started bringing out these sets, and it pushed all the other balance that we had out of the format.
Yep.
And I think it'll take us years, but we will get to a
To
point,
recorrect back.
that we will come back to a better version. But I also think we're not going to see. I think the idea is that we have aggro, mid-range, control, and combo decks. I think that's gone.
Okay, like the
I think you have ubiquitous amalgamations of resource decks,
Okay.
and then pick your favorite flavor.
Yeah.
Like, so for example, Simic, Dinosaur, Neoform,
Yeah. Yep.
and Goryo's Vengeance basically attempt to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Why would anyone play fucking Simic?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me why you would do that.
Because you want to play a competitive meme, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so, but Goryo's is very clearly the better of those two builds to do that thing.
Yes. Yep.
Here's my problem with what Esper Goryo's players do is they forget to win the game.
They're so concerned about value.
Yeah.
That
Oh my god, I got to draw the cards and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Remember my trigger and the sequence and all this bullshit. And I was like, did I attack?
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, how do I win? Like, I've decked Goryo's players.
Because they just are always.
And I'm like,
I've seen the same sort of thing. Like, they have the ephemerate sitting waiting to rebound. And, like, I'm at a point where either I'm forced to chump block and lose my only resource, or they could just straight up kill me and they rebound it.
yeah.
And I'm like, your Atraxa can't attack this turn.
The value that you get from drawing the 5 cards is not equal to winning the game.
Yeah, right. That's infinite value.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, so same sort of thing. But like, and maybe a lot of our different viewpoints throughout this episode have really been around. Maybe I'm trying to not make Modern just become Legacy. So like something that happened, I don't remember any amount of time now, when they were doing some of the Pioneer bans, and they just kept on not banning Treasure Cruise.
Sure.
And then they finally came out and they said, we want Treasure Cruise to be able to do something in one of these formats.
Sorry.
So whether or not it's the right decision, so like wipe that away. Because the idea they spawned, I liked. Treasure Cruise being your line in the sand.
Yeah, this is the hill I die on.
Is wrong.
Yeah.
But the idea, I think, I liked the inherent idea behind it. They're like, we want some of these cards to have a place. So even though, like, Treasure Cruise is maybe worse for the format than maybe it was sometime around when they banned Expressive Iteration out of Pioneer.
Oh, sure.
And they were like, we're banning Expressive Iteration because, like, Treasure Cruise is banned everywhere else. Maybe we kind of want it to have a place. Once again, wrong card to pick. But anyway, and like they talked about this, like, we want this format to have a different identity than just smaller Modern, and the same good cards that get played in Modern get played in this. It's just you have less older tools to pair with them. I liked that idea of, like, each format, besides just having a different card pool, maybe is curated slightly differently based on, like, some sort of right now undefined format identity, right? And so, like, that is a macro idea I really like, is that, like, okay, not only is it which cards do I have access to, because many players determine which format they play based around 2 ideas. What else is played around me, so I actually have people to play with? Okay, sure. And then 2, mostly when did I start playing, so what cards do I have access to?
Sure.
Right? And so Pioneer, half the reason it's developed is because enough people had joined the game since that time period when those cards, like, that format's legality begins, that they didn't have a lot of the older stuff that's played in Modern or Legacy, so they didn't really feel like they could access that format without a lot of monetary investment. So they said, okay, boom, here's this one. When there was a Pioneer scene in town, which has since died off, mostly as I understand it because of just toxic players at the place that usually ran Pioneer. If you looked at the average age compared to our average age of our Modern group, it was at least 5 or 6 years younger. Mm-hmm. It was like kids that were in upper high school and college, where we are mostly people who are into their later 20s, 30s, 40s, right? And so, like, I think that it'd be cooler if the formats were curated a little bit more differently with this intent of not only is it about those two factors, like, okay, this is when I started, so I'm a pioneer player because I'm younger than those guys who play modern or whatever. If it was also like, because I like the identity of this format. And so I don't just want modern to just become legacy, because I want them to feel different. So there's a reason you play both besides legacy is just unsupportable because of the reserve list, you know, like.
Well, I think that strikes at the key of what
Yeah.
I think most of the problems in Magic in general is that Wizards has taken the wrong idea on how to approach these problems. Like,
Yeah.
the idea for how to make standard, pioneer, modern, legacy, draft, cube, on and on
Plus
and on.
umpteen number of
Commander.
other formats that are not really supported. You
Right.
Pauper, pre-modern, whatever that is.
don't
I don't know.
even-
You know,
Legacy.
Canadian Highlander. What the heck's that?
I
But there's all of so many formats. Continue.
The way that I think it, quote unquote, should be done is that, like, I think it's an interesting idea. Like, standard's your entry point.
Yep.
You need that format to just be rock solid.
And accessible. And
Correct.
and I think it's interesting that when they made standard go back in 3 years instead of 2 years, you actually made it less accessible for people to join. Because it's so much harder to go find the good card that everybody's realized is good for 2 years
That came out 3 years ago.
and buy it.
Right.
It's not in print anymore. You can't open packs and find it the cheap way that new players find cards. And you have to then say, oh, I'm going to invest monetarily to do this, even though, like, they said the change was to make it better for standard players, but I think it only makes it better for the already invested in this format standard player.
Right.
Like, the competitive focus guy, not the F&M focus guy.
So, and that's the problem,
Yeah.
is that they. So I listened to a standard player who has a very large following. Her name is Ash Lizzie.
Okay.
62,000 subscribers. She is number 2 on Moxfield's, like,
Traffic or whatever, visitors,
people
clicks.
that make decks.
Yeah.
Brewers.
Okay.
So it's Spike and then it's her.
Yeah.
So she's up there.
Yeah, like, to be anywhere near the echelon of the number of decks that Spike pushes out
Yeah.
is impressive.
So I listened to her talk about what's wrong with standard, and I was like, this is applicable to every format in Magic.
Yeah.
Is that
Scrub away the card names. It's like,
Correct.
oh, it's the same thing.
it's the same problem.
Yeah.
So, and her point largely boiled down to, between a lot of fucks and brahs,
Okay.
that Wizards lost sight of how to keep a format healthy. And I think they have steered too much into the idea of, like, people will think this is cool.
Yeah.
People still draft, and people are still being like, I'm going to play my 3 and a green 3/4.
Yeah. But now it has 27
Right.
more lines of text on
But,
it. But yeah.
it's because you already had choice prior to its inclusion,
Yeah.
right? So it mattered. That 3/4 mattered.
Because I picked it over this other card.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Like,
it's
it
probably
could have been
better
this
than
thing. Yeah.
said other choice.
Yep.
In standard, where you don't have, like, such a limited card pool
Yeah.
and the ability to put more than one card traditionally in
Mm-hmm.
your deck, you can then go out and say, okay, the cream has come to the top.
Yeah.
And this is really, even though this is my card pool, I'm selecting
It's only
from this.
10% of that.
Yeah. You know, and so then the problem is that 10% ruins the other 90. And this is the buy-in for your preteen, your teenager, your early college player.
Yeah.
And then, but if that was solid and those guys bought in and liked it, and then as they get older, the barrier to entry to modern becomes lower.
Yeah. Because they already have some of it.
And now but like, and if you took that long-term view of how
Yeah.
to, like, farm or promote your game,
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
you would have lifetime players who don't put down their games
Yeah.
for however many years,
Right.
sans pandemics,
Sure.
you know, or what have you. And as a lovely benefit, you have the most solid format that you can ever possibly have, which is draft. And then you have the next most solid format, which would be standard, which is how you're going to make your money.
Yeah.
And then those players are going to continue to play Magic, whether they've now branched into Pauper, Commander, Modern, Pioneer, whatever
Yeah.
it is. And at that point, if this is solid, fixing these things should not take that much
Yeah.
effort.
Well, and then I think to continue on, another mistake they've then done then is if you have draft standard, this is the common entry point. Most players are here.
Yeah.
And the rest of the player base is branched out, and here's our modern group, here's our commanders, here's our paupers, here's our whatever. They used to do this at a point when I think most people would argue that the game was a little bit more accessible, a little bit easier to figure out what was for you and what wasn't, is they made specialized products. They said, hey, modern players, here is Modern Masters. These cards that you want, more of you want to have access to, we just need to give them out to you. Here you go. Here's the product for modern players. Everybody else, you can ignore this one because it's not for you. We've got something for you right up our sleeve. Hey, Commander players, here's brand new Commander decks with special cards made specifically for your format. They don't get played anywhere else. One of the key mistakes I think they made with Legacy was saying anything printed comes into this format, because we've seen a bunch of really weird cards kind of take over Legacy, or at least partially because it's a Commander card, True Name Nemesis being an example, or the that Monarch mechanic that, like, if you were the Monarch, you got to do all these special extra things.
And no one else had any Monarch cards in their deck, so it never changed.
Yeah, so it was just, I played a Monarch card, so I'm great. And so, like, but now every product, they're like, everything is just a standard release. So they try to sprinkle stuff in for everybody, and there's no way that you can balance it for draft, standard, modern, commander, blank, 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 where when you could make a specialized product, you'd be like, we don't have to worry about if this Nadu is going to break modern, because it's not legal in modern.
I mean, think about how many, and they're one-ofs, but think how often we have it. We have Reflector Mage.
Yeah.
Then we have Oko. Then we have Nadu.
Yeah.
Then we have whatever's next.
Yeah.
You know,
it's always a chain of something,
So
whatever the next thing is.
I'm going to expand our topic to, like, if you are control of Magic,
Okay.
you can have 4 sets a year.
I love it. So good.
They all have to be standard.
Oh, this also brings another idea I had while driving home yesterday.
You can have 2 supplemental sets in that same year.
Okay, so 4 standard sets, 2 supplemental.
That you can tailor to whatever format you want.
Okay.
Pioneer, Commander, Modern, Pauper.
Yeah, any specialization, but
Right.
they're not standard legal.
And those have to rotate.
Okay.
So if you do Commander and Modern next year,
You
got to do
can't
the
do-
other ones next.
You've got to do something
and you have to go to
something
the back
else.
of the line.
Okay.
And then you can do one additional thing on top of it.
Like,
I don't
are we
know
talking
what
about
it is.
set release sort of stuff?
Set relief, or like
just,
you can have one other product.
Okay,
on top.
one other product. Got it. Okay.
Now, so I guess that is technically 7 things, but, like, I would cap it to say, like, standard sets are standard set size.
at
Everything else is
most-
half as big.
Yeah, at most people have 5 things to worry about.
Right.
And that's if you care about that. So I have some ideas already percolating. Can I jump?
Go.
Okay. First, for the standard sets, my philosophy in card design would be to trying to think of the right terminology. We need to flatten the power curve.
Oh, yeah.
More things need to be closer. The commons should not be that far away from the mythics in terms of power. In fact, maybe, and I don't know exactly how this might work, but I think maybe the rarity system is an issue,
Maybe.
right? And so, like, what if every card was just a card and it didn't matter the rarity, so you don't feel the need to make rares and mythics better? And it's just like, we designed cool cards, and all of the cards we think are balanced for what they do for their cost. Then you can just say, here's a bunch of these cards that work, and maybe we're more focused on, well, there's more 1s than 5s in the set, rather than, well, our commons need to be not as good as our mythics. Because now we take away that problem that you mentioned of the bottom 90% of any format isn't really viable in that format. A card I remember that's a perfect example of this for me is from the first Eldraine set. It was the I don't remember the name of the card. It was a wolf card. So it was 2 green, for a 3/3 wolf, and when it entered, it fought something. But you could sacrifice
Night Pit, no.
you could sacrifice a food to give
Yeah,
it indestructible
Witch
and tap it.
Stalker.
Yes, something like that, right? I thought that card was super cool. I like drafted it once or twice, and I was like, this card is awesome. And then you look at how can I play it in standard, and it was just like, oh, and there was another like 4-mana green card in that same format that was like, this is just the better thing to do at this spot in the curve. It was that thing that has like 7 different abilities: haste, can't be blocked by creatures, power creatures, questing beast. It was like there was no reason ever to play this card,
The wolf over
the
beast.
wolf over questing beast. And so it's like in draft, this card was cool and had a place. In standard, it didn't, because this card was just so much more powerful. Just exact same cost, but it just does more. If you just flatten that curve so the power of most cards relative to cost is much more equal, if you could get to a point where you have 70% of a card pool in a format like standard be viable in a constructed way, you would have the coolest format we've ever seen.
I think the standard would have to more closely mirror what draft is. I don't know. Like, on like a turn for turn kind of a game.
Yeah.
I agree that the power level that we are seeing is out of whack.
Yeah.
And so like standard right now, they have a problem with a card called VV.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, we were talking about like modern, like the standard just had a pro tour, like a big event.
Or yeah, whatever the GP or no RC, it was an RC or
Yeah.
something, whatever it was.
51% of the decks entered were VV decks, and
Yeah, that's
even
insane.
the people who own them were like, I don't want to play mirrors all the time.
Yeah.
was
Mirrors can be fun every once in a while, but when it's
Right.
all the time, no, it's not.
That was one of my chief concerns about watching Pro Tour play for so long,
Mm-hmm.
was that you would get teams, it would homogenize the format, and you just get a
Yeah,
bunch of
you've
mirrors.
got these 16 guys all playing the same deck, so yeah, you're just gonna run into each other.
So yeah,
Cool.
so like there are cool things, and like if you take the power curve down, then so like let's use your example of the 4-drop that has to sacrifice a food token
Yeah.
in order to fight something.
Before we go on this, my favorite thing about that card, it didn't make a food itself.
Right, you had to make a food some other way.
Right.
So you promoted deck synergy.
Yeah, right. So
Right.
now I have to play something else in order to make this card work.
The 2-drop gingerbread man that made.
Yeah,
love that
right,
card so much.
right. And like that sort of thing. So like same sort of thing. If Guide of Souls didn't create energy,
Right.
now it's a really cool card because what energy production can I put into the deck to make it so I can pull off this thing? But now it's just here it is. It's all together. You don't have to worry about it. It just does it.
Right.
Continue your point. Sorry.
So if that card, let's say that card was like the best 4-drop that you could have in the set,
Yeah.
and it worked exactly the way it did. But now, so like you have to make deck building choices to
Yeah.
facilitate it.
Right.
Okay. So that still becomes the best thing that you can do in the set,
Yeah.
or whatever. But the best thing that you can do doesn't win you the game
Yeah.
or swing the game
So
wildly
Yeah.
back one way that like it's like everything we've done to this point doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think anytime you have a strategy that says like anything, it doesn't like I can take one action and it does not matter where the game was before this, I am now wildly ahead. I think it's something that's like, oh, this is probably not right, and so if you have that existing in a format, it's like one, it's going to create people not wanting to play format because it doesn't feel fun to play because you're like, none of my choices up to this point mattered. They resolved the one thing and it didn't matter that I had 20 creatures on board.
Right.
Where it's different if it's like, well, they pull off their combo because they had 2 pieces in play and they found the 3rd piece. I knew that was a possibility because the 2 pieces were here. If I had been able to kill them before that and then drawing the 3rd piece didn't matter, but like, oh, yay, right? It's why 2-card combos are so bad because it's just like they had nothing in play. They didn't win this, and the game's over.
Right.
Right. So that would be the first thing I'd do in your, like, I think already better direction of set release stuff. The thing I thought about the other day along these lines is you really like football.
I do.
You very much follow professional football. The football season ends usually the first week of February when the
Somewhere
Super Bowl
around there,
happens. So for most teams, it ended before that.
Mm.
So for most fandoms, it ended before that, right? Doesn't then having from February until late August without football make August feel that much more fun? When football comes back, aren't you like revved up and excited again?
Yep, you get excited.
So, what if Magic took the same approach? So what if instead of 4 standard sets a year, we had 3, and there was a off season where you just didn't get these releases that kept the churn of all of these formats going? Because assumption being that all of the standard set releases fuel into everything,
Yeah.
and then only this supplemental stuff goes into this bucket or this bucket and not every bucket, right? So what if Magic did the same sort of thing? Because it's the only thing I can think of that I follow. And so, like, for instance, I follow a lot of disc golf, the professional disc golf scene. A couple weeks ago, they had their last event of the season. They had the Tour Championship. Now we get no disc golf pro level tournament stuff until the end of February. And yes, it sucks at the moment because, like, man, I want to keep watching the thing I like, but it allows me to do other things. And then when February hits, I'm like, let's go. Let's go. Like, I'm ready. So what if we had 3 standard set releases a year and they happened over a 9-month period?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the other 3-month period is the off season, which is where we don't have the pro tours. And so what if you had pro tours scheduled throughout those 9 months? At the end of the 9-month period, you had the world championships. So we built up. So like, okay, at the start of the season, this is the 2025 Magic season. We release a set. It starts this off. We have some number of pro tours along the way, evenly spaced at each third or something like that. So, you know, a few weeks in, month and a half in, okay, we had 1 pro tour. 3 months in, we have another one. 5.5 or 4.5 months in, we have a third one after the 9, or however you can space it. I can't do math. Okay. You space these out as like the kind of like impactful things along the way that all of those types of tournaments and different things determine who qualifies for the world championship. And then at the end of the 9-month season, we have the world championships, and that marks the end of the season. All right, everybody, enjoy your off season. There's not this high level of competitive play that's happening until the off season's over. It gives people time to relax, gives people time to recuperate, not have to be traveling all over the place, whatever. Exact same way that all of our major sports do it. No sport runs 12 months out of the year at the highest competitive level, right? Everybody has an off season.
Yep.
What if we tried that with the way we release Magic? Then your supplemental stuff comes out in the off season, and that's the stuff that's like, all right, hey, Commander players, get ready. This is your year for your supplemental product. Maybe it's we make special curated Commander decks, and you can have fun with those, or we make some sort of, you know, Commander Master set. And then, also during this off season, we're going to release Modern Masters. Here's the really cool reprints and, you know, new art treatments and whatever. Or maybe we release a cube that you can buy the box of, and it's the whole cube, and you can get people to, whatever your supplemental sets are. Those come out in the off season, and they don't have things like pro tours attached to them or whatever. And then you can kind of like build hype for this, follow the professionals at the highest level playing the same way we watch sports, but with Magic. So you create hype for your big flagship stuff, your standard releases that everybody impacts, and then you have your targeted releases to other people when that's not the main draw.
Okay.
Now, I know Hasbro wouldn't want to go
right. That was my first thought.
Let's imagine a world where this is possible.
Okay.
Do you think that creates an interesting dynamic for the game? Because we care about the gameplay as it plays out on the table rather than the business side of dollars and cents that Hasbro cares
So we still get to go to F&M all year long.
Yeah, so the casual stuff, just like you can go pick up basketball wherever, I can go to a disc golf course any time of the year. It's just the pro scene is running on this season schedule like we see in professional sports. But you can still engage in it casually however you want. And the low-level stuff, you know, you could find a, you know, whatever sort of... I know, so I'm just going to keep on using disc golf because it's what I know the most of. There are amateur leagues that you can go play at year-round.
Yeah.
Like around here, there's ones that run at different courses during the summer. One runs on Sunday mornings during the winter because people are masochists, I guess, and they want to go play in the snow. Stuff like that. But so like you can still engage on the non-professional level the same way we do whenever we want. It's just we know that like there's going to be pro tours to watch and these big tournaments to watch and build up to something. You get to follow Reed Duke and see how he does this year or whatever for a more limited time span like we see in professional sports, and to like kind of create hype. And then you have these build up moments of, okay, we've had the first X number of weeks of our standard season. Now the next set's coming out. So maybe you release one to kick off the season, one 3 months in, one 6 months in, or space it out however you want. And so that then by the time we come to the World Championships, it's like, okay, we kind of know everything we're working with, and go. And you have a base point because you still have a 2-year standard. And so last year's stuff is still around. But now it's, the old guard and what is going to change when it comes into it. But you have a base to build off of. And so it gets 2 years to shine, and then it's rotated
out. So I like the idea of creating hype in a different way, because I don't like how they're doing it, because right now it's just like,
it's just relying on the fact that we want new cards all the time, and it's just here it is, hand over fist.
It's like candy for dinner, right?
Yeah. So unsustainable.
I don't like that. I like the idea of basically, like, I think what you're going with is like absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Have a time period where you don't have this to follow, because right now it's year round. There's tournaments to follow, there's set releases, there's all this sort of stuff. And like, ask anybody who does anything, if you're just if you never get any time off, you just burn out. And so I think the only reason that like we've been able to play Magic for as long as we have is because we've basically shuttered ourselves to not care about most of what comes out, because it's like either that product isn't for me, or I know I only need to care about 6 of these new cards in this format.
Yeah, and our stuff doesn't rotate.
Yeah. And so, like, but like, so we've been able to manage it because we don't care about as much of it. But there are people that are, it's like, it's just unsustainable unless you do that yourself. And I think that setting your clientele up for burnout is, in the long run, a bad business strategy.
I would agree. Like, it does seem like with the quantity of product that they're putting out, I feel like it's just way too much. B,
yeah,
it is unasked for. C, it is it's like, oh, here the heroin dealer just got a bunch more heroin.
Yeah. Do you
but
want
like
some?
is this going to be the good heroin, or is this the watered down heroin?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand how you can put out 7 sets in a year and have half of them be worth their salt.
Yeah, like there's not enough time to develop them, to test them. There's not even enough time for us as the audience for them to digest them and get to experience them.
Right.
Right? Like,
oh, I have another story.
Yeah, we're already at this point where the next set that's coming out is the Avatar: The Last Airbender set. A set that I'm actually excited for because I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. I literally have the 4 element symbols tattooed on my arm. So this one I'm actually like, Universe is Beyond, okay, you found something for me.
Right.
Cool. But we're still at the point, I think maybe yesterday we finally got the rest of the cards for the set. But we've been getting cards for the Lorwyn set that's coming out in January. And we were getting cards from sets 2 or 3 sets down the road before we even had this set fully spoiled. We got the first spoilers for the Avatar set 3 sets ago. And it's like, it's so hard to even keep track of what is coming out when and what's in what. And in order to digest anything, you cannot have a casual interest in it. I used to know and have looked over all of the cards that were coming out in like a standard set before they came out, because that was the only set you'd worry about, and it was a 2-week time period where spoilers were coming out, and it was fun. Like, I remember being like, oh my god, look at the spoiler card that came out today. People are like, this one's so cool. And now we're in this constant spoiler season that is just like, yeah, there are more cards. When are those ones printed? I don't know.
When everyone's super, nobody is.
Yeah, right? And so it's like, they've got to be feeling pressure on the business end now
There's no other explanation.
from enough people. But like now it's got to be kicking backwards and being like, maybe this is too much, because there's got to be, because who is saying, yes, I want 7 standard sets here, I want a new set every 6.5 weeks.
And like from a business point of view, you can't ramp down.
Yeah,
Like no one at Hasbro,
because then your numbers look bad.
No one at Hasbro is going to be like, oh, let's go back to 4 a year.
Yeah.
But the story I want to tell you was, I remember Jim Davis.
Yeah, I do.
Bit of a weird dude for me.
Okay, yeah.
But smart.
Yeah, never been my favorite, but I agreed.
So he comes out with a state of the channel.
Okay, of his personal YouTube channel. Okay, yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
But all my favorite people in Magic are streamers, and I hate it. But like, he has a state of the channel the other day, and he basically says the following: we're going to stop drafting. He has this program where every set he starts a new account and drafts from the very lowest levels of the arena ladder, all the way to the top. Mythic.
Okay, gotcha.
He's currently drafting Spider-Man.
Yep.
He can't do it anymore. He's only in Platinum. So there's 2 problems with this. Number one, they have something called a Draft 2 format.
Yeah, I've heard not good things.
I've never done it.
Yeah.
But so this is his problem with it. They have changed the way that like you ramp up on the leveling on Arena. Mm-hmm. So now if you do a draft and you like 4-0 it or whatever, like you don't even make it out of like 1 rank.
Oh, okay.
So like you have to be ultra great at it
and just play so much
and play a ton.
Okay.
And win basically all of it.
Gotcha.
Okay. Here's the problem with that. Is that when this particular set that he's drafting, Spider-Man, is not one of the more liked draft sets to watch. So he's doing a ton of it. His algorithm is saying you are averaging half of
the viewers you
are normally doing.
Stuff, yeah.
So what the algorithm is doing is, since that's the only product that he is putting out on this in the set, it's not recommending his content.
Yeah. And so now his monetary income is going down. He doesn't have the following. Like all the problems now, the whole thing falls apart.
So he said, we're done drafting Spider-Man. I have to give you the content you're responding to.
Yeah.
Positively, you're not responding it to this.
Yeah.
If that is not an indictment, these people are free advertising for Wizards.
Do you know how long he's done that?
Oh,
for?
he's done it for.
It's not like, oh well, he tried it starting it 6 months ago. This has been a long running thing.
No. It's been multiple years.
So there's very clearly a track record of this works until now.
So to me, the number one problem is how quickly he's leveling, which is determining how much he has to do of it.
Yeah.
And therefore, because quality varies set to set.
Yeah. When
you hit the inevitable valley of quality, you're going to run into this problem.
Yeah, right.
So once, there has to be a breaking point that basically says, I got to cut bait here.
Yeah. And then I can imagine that part of his decision must have been because looking at next year, to try to do that same sort of thing in what used to be 3 months.
Right. You have to do it
stretch it down into 6 weeks, because every time a new set releases, that's the new set.
And now it's harder.
And now, and then you add on it's harder. Even if you had the same time frame, now it's exponentially more difficult.
Right.
And so if you can't make it to Mythic every time, then people are like, well, this isn't a fun series.
Right, or you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that too. Right.
So we've been going for 2 hours.
Yes, we have.
But so this is the last thing I'm going to say.
Okay.
To come up with what I would do for this episode today, I went and kind of canvassed streamers, people who are doing this for me, to kind of get an idea of
see what they're saying, what they're talking about,
good and bad is.
Yeah.
This is out, but what I got from them is outside the scope of our episode.
Yeah.
These people pick this job. They are not selected.
Yeah.
Like you and I have been selected to be employed by a school system or an aerospace company.
Right.
Or whatever. They sat down at their computer and branded themselves and advertised themselves,
Yeah.
and that following that they've garnered allowed them to sell advertising space,
Yep.
and that's how they make money.
Yep.
I have said this all the way back to the Jerry Thompson days. Wizards owes these people nothing.
Yeah.
It is behooven to Wizards to do nothing
Yeah.
for Jim Davis, Ash Lizzie, Reed Duke, Aspiring Spike,
Any of them. Yeah.
any of them.
Yep.
When they, and this was Ash that was doing this part of it,
Okay.
when streamers go and say Wizards needs to do a better job of this for people like me, they do not.
Yeah.
They need to do a better job for people like us.
Yeah. For the people who are the ones buying the cards,
Right.
making it so that card shops want to stock their stuff
Right.
and sell it.
If you do not play Magic in the real world, Wizards owes you nothing.
Yeah.
And it bothers me. I understand they're trying to make a living doing this thing they love. Great, more power to them. Doesn't work
Yeah.
out for everybody.
Yeah.
I couldn't do what they do.
The ability to make a living is right. How doing it in the exact way that you want to the most is not.
Right. Like
That is a privilege if you can be a streamer and make a living.
right.
We don't make a living making this podcast. We're doing it because we find it fun.
Correct. So, for example, you said earlier that I really like football,
You do.
right? So I have a football YouTube channel.
You do.
I do. I do not go to the NFL and tell them
Yeah.
that they need to do a better job for me so that I can make money at doing this thing that is a big... Streamers are the little fish on the underside of a whale that are hitching a ride to somewhere
Yeah.
else. And, like, I know that sounds completely, like, derogatory. It's not technically derogatory, but, like, they are essentially trying to, like, piggyback off of something that somebody else is spending millions of
Yeah.
dollars to try and do.
Right.
And I don't complain about the NFL not helping me be able to have a streaming channel
Yeah.
about their product.
Yeah. Their product isn't about making you
Right.
able to make a podcast. It's to get people to sit down and watch a game so that they can sell advertising during the commercials.
And the only other thing that really, really grinds me about streamers is that Reed Duke has become one of them. And his thumbnails for his videos are him always doing some stupid fucking pose. And I'm like, they're making Reed Duke become a court jester to try and hook people into
Yeah.
watching his version of this, when his version of this is just so much better than 99%. If it's just him sitting there deadpan or not talking.
Yeah. And then it's being like, okay, this is why we do this, and here's this, and okay.
Like, if you wanted to get better at Magic, you should either watch Reed Duke or Paul Chean, and there's nobody else.
I mean, and I know I'm in the vast minority where I loved the fact that that's what Reed did. I know a lot of people want to be entertained. I'm entertained by the intellectual engagement I get, not because he says the same thing whenever somebody does X action, or he has a little emote that pops up every time somebody subs, or the stupid sound effects or whatever, right? It's just like, he's really good at Magic. I want to watch somebody who's really good at Magic. Oh, he also likes to play the kind of Magic that I really like. Part of the reason I really like it is probably because of him. You
Right.
know, it's a self-feeding cycle. But yeah. So in the interest of wrapping up here, I think that come November 10th, we are going to see something that is a fraction of what either of us...
I don't think they're
Put
going to do
forward.
anything.
At most, I wouldn't be surprised if they if they unbanned a couple of the very safe cards we talked about, just as like, hey, because to be fair, Modern is in a pretty decent spot right now, especially in comparison to what we've had leading up to this point. It was Breach, before that was Ring, before that was Nadu, before that was, and you could just keep on going, right? And we finally are at a point where it's like, there's not a menace in the format. Do I have personal philosophy problems with what is currently being played? Sure. But this is also a format that I think that, given that this is the landscape, I can at least decently successfully find a way to play the way I want to play and I have a chance. It's not like I'm like, well, I'm running this knowing that I'm just going to lose over and over, and I don't have a shot. Mm-hmm. Like, it is possible to
Hashtag
say,
John.
yeah, it is possible to say, I want to play this kind of style and metagame for it in this format. Do I think it could be better, and do I think the direction of the format as a whole could use a little bit of shaping? I think the format has gotten bloated with how much stuff gets shoved into it, and part of it's just because with so many sets coming out, there's be so many more things to come in. And I think the final point I'd like to make, that kind of like really to sum up a lot of what we talked about today, is they just need to lean a little bit more into the people, I think generally like us, who see an answer card and say, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Because you mentioned that like so much of this people, they want to see people say, oh, that's a cool thing, and be excited about it. But when was the last time they printed a really good answer?
I have some answers, but you banned most of them.
Yeah, but like and Solitude was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they don't make things for this game, this format.
Well, and not even that. Just like, okay, what's a good answer card in Standard?
I have no idea.
Exactly, because like we used to, like, I remember when Fatal Push got spoiled, everybody was like,
yeah, this is great.
Like, we need more moments like that. There's just as many cool moments to happen when you print a good answer as there are for good threats.
Ooh, I have a fun idea for our next topic.
Okay. But then, like, all Wizards seems to want to do is focus on the let's print the new cool threat, and we just forget about the answers. Like, well, if you print cool threats, print cool answers, and then we'll be good, right? And like, and like that sort of thing. More answers, or at least as many answers as threats.
There has to be balance.
Yes, balance in all things. That's what Thanos said. Thanos was right. Everybody, we're out.